Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of February 2025. I hope you're well. I'm using the Edmund de Lac Tarot for you today. This is what it looks like here. It's very nice. Things to tell you before hello? Just an absolute brain fart there. If the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, you can do so via the extended that will be available to you at the end. The link for it's in the description box. Please note that we are moving away from Vimeo because of their incredibly intrusive and invasive requirements now to sell on their platform. So we're trying out Selfie. I would really appreciate some feedback from people, see how their experience is with it, because obviously it's got to work for you as much as it's got to work for me. There've been a few teething issues, but the overwhelming majority of people who've tried it say it's a better experience than Vimeo, and those who have had problems with it, we've been able to rectify pretty quickly. So please do feel free to either leave a comment underneath or email me. The email address is also in the description box, and just let me know what your experience was, because if it's no good, we'll go do something else. It's fine. Other than that, obviously Circle is always still available. Link for that is down in the description box. But let's crack straight on with this. Oh, look at all my shit just like invading the space. Let's get all these out of the way. So let's ask, what's going on with Aries, please? Can I have 3 cards for Aries? So we have the first card out. It's the Ace of Cups in reverse. Interesting. What about current energy, please, for Aries? We have the Seven of Swords in reverse. Nice. I like that. And what's coming towards Aries, please, for February? Well, we have the Sun and we have the Ace of Wands together. What do we have at the bottom of the deck? We have the Four of Swords. There it is. I don't know if you can see these terribly well. They're absolutely beautiful cards. They really are, but they're quite... there's a lot of depth to them. You need to sort of see them close up to be able to truly appreciate what's going on in them. Nevertheless, we work with what we've got. Oh, interesting. Okay, we're going to go with the Triple Goddess to clarify, not the Waite Smith. So let's get some clarifiers on the table, and then we'll talk about what all of this is about. I mean, before we even go too much deeper, we should probably point out, your ruling planet is currently in retrograde in a water sign, and you're probably feeling that right now. But as with all retrogrades, the best way to deal with this energy is to attempt to improve and correct and go over everything to do with what it is that you're doing, right? Because there's Mars, very much doing planet rather than thinking, or more mercurial things that we would associate with a Mercury retrograde, like contracts and stuff like that. And make sure that it's taking you where you want to go. Now that Mars retrograde ceases, I think it's the 24th of February, right? Because it stations direct, and then it's going to start moving forwards. It is still going to be in the sign of Cancer, and that's very important to note. So it's still not having a great time, but at least it's not going fucking backwards, right? Because Mars hates going backwards. But he's going to be moving very, 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 very slowly. However, something very, very positive seems to be appearing towards the end of the month for you, and I would put it around about Mars stationing direct sort of time and then onwards. And everything that's happened up until this point, and we'll get into this in a second, is much more about creating that firmer foundation for you to be able to bounce from, Aries, when the time is right to do so, and it very much isn't at the moment. That can be incredibly frustrating. As a fellow fire sign, I share your pain. But at the same time, it's that kind of stitch in time saves nine, right? So we do this work here, even though it's tedious and it's boring and it's dull. And to be fair, most of January was kind of that kind of energy. It feels like it's shifting a little bit in February, and that's probably got something to do with Jupiter also stationing direct and moving forwards. That's doing that in the first week of February. Uranus has already stationed direct and is now moving forwards as well. So there's a sense of all the work that we've already put in January, now starting to feel like we're actually getting somewhere with it. Still not time yet for, big bounces, big moves, anything like that, even speedy movement. Nevertheless, the essential preconditions for such a thing to occur are being laid. January and now February. It feels like it's a little less tedious in February for you. Anyway, tell me about the Ace of Cups in reverse. Why is this here? So we have the Knight of Pentacles. That's Virgo energy. Why is the Ace of Cups in reverse? And we have the Three of Wands. Tell me about the Seven of Swords in reverse, please. Why is this here? So we've got your card, the Fool, but it's on its side. I actually like that. That's Seven of Swords in reverse. Right, so we've also got the Two of Cups, which kind of looked to me a little bit like it was heading towards reversal. So I'm going to hold it like that because I think it's important to work with the cards as they lay. Tell me about the Sun and the Ace of Wands. We have the Five of Wands. Saturn in Leo. How about this? And we have a shit ton of cards. Am I going to take all of these? I am. Okay. We have the Five of Cups. We have the King of Cups. And we have the Seven of Cups. This is very interesting, Aries, and I shall tell you for why. Like, there is a way that you are used to doing things, and I don't think that's going to be the way that you do it too much more moving forwards, or at least without some level of amendment and adjustment. I'll get to what I mean by that shortly. I don't want to be jumping around too much in the reading, but let's start off over here, because this Ace of Cups and Two of Cups, I do feel they're kind of related here. Generally speaking, when we've got a Two of Cups reversed, and I know I'm jumping around, but bear with me. When we've got a Two of Cups reversed, we're talking about some sort of relationship breakdown, and that could be, a marriage breakdown. That can be a breakdown in friendships, business partnerships, any of these kind of things. And the fact that the Ace of Cups is the very first card out and it's showing up reversed it feels to me a kind of sense of knowing that something is missing, right? The feeling for something isn't there anymore. Now, whether it's a person, whether it's a situation, whether it's a job position, your career, where you live, whatever, that will be a matter for you. But what it's saying is, where there was previously an emotional investment, it seems like there's been some sort of acknowledgement or some sort of recognition by you in this moment that doesn't really exist anymore. It's very, very interesting, because it's not indicating squabbles or falling out or any of those kind of things. It's just kind of a moment of, I'm not really about this anymore. Now, like I said, this could be between relationships, between you and another, right? But it could be something that you've been involved in for, quite a long time. It could be a particular, like I said, like a direction of work, career stuff, where it is that you're working at. You've got the Knight of Pentacles here and the Three of Wands. And interestingly, they're kind of headed off in this direction, which says to me that at some point in the recent past, you've kind of looked around at the direction of travel that you were engaged in, and you've gone, I'm not sure I want that anymore. It kind of reminds me of when I was doing my masters. I was sat with a friend of mine. She was an Aquarius, absolutely outstanding human being, and I said to her, I was sat in the seminar earlier, and I was kind of looking around, and bear in mind I was 36 when I went to do my masters, one of only two. We were the elders of the masters, so it was me and a Russian chap, a dear friend of mine, and I was looking around at most of the other people who were in the room, and they were 21, 22 years old. They were hungry for success. And I was like, I've been thinking, I'm watching all of these kids around, right? And they've got no responsibilities. They've got no duties. They can literally choose to pull a 60, 70-hour working week, and it's cool. It's fine because it's taking them somewhere. I don't think I want to give that to it, which means then that I'm kind of competing against these people who are totally invested in the direction of travel, and I'm not. And I looked at her and I said, I don't even know if I really want to do law now. So I'm starting to think I'd rather just read tarot cards. It was really funny. I was sat in the driver's seat of my Chrysler Grand Voyager with my feet out the side, the door open. She was sat on the other seat there with the door open, and we were just chatting, smoking cigarettes. I was like, well, I think I'd rather just read tarot cards for a living. And she was like, so weird. I've been having the same thing, not the tarot cards, but like just doing anything other than I don't really want to be in this world. I'm sharing this with you because it feels like it's that same level of realization. It's like, well, I put loads of effort into this, and it's not like it's not going to give me some sort of return, but I just don't feel like my heart is in it anymore. So the Knight of Pentacles is saying, well, where is your heart? Where does the value lie? What is it that you want to hold moving forwards right in front of you so that everybody can see it? This is my value, right? This is what I bring, but it's also what I recognize in the situation that I'm approaching. We see it here with the Three of Wands as well. Neither of them heading in that forward, motion, almost kind of chopping the possibility of moving forwards that way off at the knees. This is particularly strong since we see the Ace of Wands over here. I just want to share that with you, because the Three of Wands is action that is already in motion, right? Here we are taking, what we were thinking about in the two, and we're actually doing it out there in the world. It's a very external kind of card. Then we've got the value. What is in this for us? I mean, maybe, there's the possibility of financial reward, but absolutely miserable work-life balance, or, the feeling of having to make yourself do it all the time because the joy has gone out of it, the fun has gone out of it. This is a very, very important revelation, and I think very much in alignment with what we would expect to see in a Mars retrograde, particularly for a Mars-ruled sign. Like, we can make ourselves do things if we need to, right? The hardship, I think, for fire signs is a little bit of an abstract, right? We're willing to put ourselves through something if we feel really fiery about it. It's almost like we don't notice the level of endurance or hardship or pain that we have to go through to get that goal. Like, we're there, we're doing it. You don't seem to want that anymore. It's like, Now, the interesting thing about that is that the question then remains, where do you go from here? If this isn't it, and we've been pushing in this direction, but suddenly we've noticed that our heart, and don't forget that your ruling planet is in the sign of Cancer, which is a very complex and emotional sign. What does that mean? Sometimes there can be, a certain set of consequences that flow from that we didn't anticipate. Right? So if you've been doing the same job for, having the same career for, I don't know, however long, decades, right? And you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. There's a knock-on effect to your identity. And it's like, you are now no longer this thing. You're actually thinking about being another thing instead. And if you've been doing something for a long time, that can be quite overwhelming, right? It can induce a little bit of fear. Not that that's a big thing for you. Quite often you'll use that as fuel, right? But the question is, what next? If it's a relationship, it's like, well, do I carry on my own for a bit, or do I start looking for someone else? Like, what? I'm not really sure what's going on here. I just know that the heart isn't in it. So then we come into your current energy, and we've got the Seven of Swords. Now, the Seven of Swords is a deceptive energy, sometimes called the Thief card. And generally speaking, when this comes up, it's certainly, for a lot of tarot readers, it will indicate some sort of deception that is happening around the querent, right? Around the person who's coming for a reading. But the way that I choose to read this, because 7 as a number, right, from a numerological perspective, is all about seeking truth. And then we have here a card that is directly related to at the very least, the avoidance of truth, and certainly, perhaps a flexible relationship with the truth. This card comes to talk to me much more about the mental processes that are going on in our own heads, right? Where are we deceiving ourselves about something? Where have we been working to a script that wasn't ours? Where have we been possibly even spiritually bypassing a situation because we didn't want to have to deal with it? I mean, sometimes the reason why this could be so powerful is because although that feeling is not sudden, it isn't. That builds up over a period of time. The recognition and acknowledgement of it can act a little bit like a Three of Swords, right? We have an intersection of information and emotions. And the information is, my heart isn't in this. I don't enjoy this anymore. The emotions are like, well, why am I doing it then? Or maybe it's the other way around. Either way, there's something that changes the perspective when this thing happens, right? So in your case, what we've got is the Seven of Swords showing up in the reverse. It's saying the lies are being shed, right? The ways that we've deceived ourselves, where we're like, oh, it's okay, I'm just having an off week. And it's like, no, actually, this is a pattern of emotional discomfort that's been going on for quite a long time, right? This is a pattern of emotional avoidance that's been going on for a long time. It actually points to there being a much bigger issue here than I've allowed myself to think. And I did that because I needed it to keep functioning. But now that all the veils are dropping and you can start to see where your mind has, tried to soften the impact of this for you. It's okay, it doesn't matter, just keep doing what you're doing. It's like, now we need to change something. It can't carry on the way that it was before, right? Because we've got a clarity, we've got some truth, we've got a new understanding that is much more rooted in truth than what we were working to before. And then what do we have down here? We have the Fool. Now, one would assume that a good way for the Fool to turn up here would be in the upright, and yes, I would agree, if Mars were not in retrograde right now. I think if the Fool were in the upright during a Mars retrograde, what we've got is that false start kind of energy, right, where somebody's like started running before the gun's gone off properly, right? Trying to anticipate when it's happening and essentially timing it wrong. I am much happier seeing the Fool showing up sideways because, like I said, we've got maybe 3 weeks of Mars left in retrograde, and even then, when it stations direct, it's going to be in the sign of Cancer, so that's not really giving you the fire and the all the things that you would need to barrel forwards, but it is presenting the opportunity for at least the mental exploration, the emotional exploration of the possibility of some sort of new start that is big. We talk about taking leaps of faith and kind of jumping off into the void when we see the Fool here, and I think that the timing is wrong for that, but we can start the process of familiarizing our brain with the idea that we're not doing things the way that we have done up until this point, right? It's a period of adjustment, giving yourself an opportunity to adjust your thinking before you move on. Now, as a corollary of that, there is, it seems to me, a kind of objective assessment of the relationships that are around you and saying, well, is this part of the new world that I'm going to be experiencing very soon, or is this some sort of stagnant representation of an old world that I used to be a match for that I'm not anymore, right? Because this Page of Pentacles, it's reversed. We said over here, what we previously valued, we're not about that anymore. So it would be very lucky indeed if you were able to substitute immediately some sort of new thing that you value. Rarely does it actually happen that way. It's kind of like, well, I don't value this thing, so what else do I not value? What else is not really helping me moving forwards? Remember, retrograde energy is always about this contemplation, reassessment, reevaluation, right? And quite frankly, there are some relationships that are not up to par, right? They're not part of where you're going moving forwards. And you do know that. I think, in all honesty, Aries, you probably have known that for a very long time. What you didn't want to do was admit it to yourself, because that kind of truth, the admission of that kind of truth, would necessitate some sort of action that followed after it, right? Because fire signs, we don't just sit around on our asses and think about things. It's like thought occurs and then immediately action occurs, as my son says. As my son said once, mother doesn't have passing thoughts. I was like, I fucking don't, you're right. If I think about something, I more or less immediately action it, and it doesn't matter how fucking batshit it is. Like, I'm there, right? So, this, no heart anymore, in it anymore, here. What's going on with the relationships? Now, like I said, these can be, spousal relationships. It can be as serious and significant as that, or it can be your business relationships. It's like, where have you come to the end in a business partnership where you're not really getting what you want? You certainly can't summon the enthusiasm to throw yourself into it in some sort of meaningful way. But it can be about friendship groups as well. I remember having a client once who had a friend from childhood, right? And this woman was in her 60s, and they'd been best friends since school, so since the age of 4 or 5. And it was only after a considerable amount of personal work on her part that she realised every time she saw this friend of hers, like, her friend was pulling her down. It's like whether it was that she felt kind of threatened by my client or insecure around my client, but for the first time in like 60 years, she saw very, very clearly that this friendship was built on something that wasn't really giving her anything, and she kind of wondered what it was giving her friend too. But it was kind of like they slipped into this continuous dynamic that had been playing out since they were 4 or 5, and she was like, "Why do I do this to myself? Why do I expose myself to this?" And I was like, "Well, that's a really good question." She's like, I'm done. And I was like, good. I'm glad to hear it. We could see some of those kind of thought processes going on this way, where where there's a difference between good-natured ribbing and then something that is designed to put you back in your place each time, right? And it could be friends, it could be family, it could be work colleagues. It might not even be that. It might be something as simple as, like, well, if my heart's not in this, and this is the point of alignment between us two, then by definition, I'm going off in a different direction, and it's unlikely that you're coming with me, right? Because that person is maintaining that road that they're on. What we're talking about is essentially taking a bit of a broom through your life, Aries, where you're like, if I know the big change is coming, I know there's a big change of direction that is coming up for me, what do I not need to take with me? What can I put to one side? Now, what's quite interesting is that we have double 4s down here. We've got the 4 of Swords and we've got the 4 of Cups. Now, that 4 of Cups is 2, 3, 4. It is a Cancer card, interestingly. I forget what it is, what the planet is that is associated with it. But I often talk about this 4 of Cups in terms of abandonment issues, right? And rejection and rejecting, and sometimes the problems that we experience around that, right? Because of the narratives that we write around what that is. But I like the fact that they've shown up in this order, because the 4 of Swords is about a kind of mental peace. And I feel actually like the 4 of Cups here is about the act of rejection, because in order to make an omelette, you're going to have to break some eggs, Aries. Now, generally speaking, you don't find that too problematic a thing, but because we're talking about the switch from something that has been strongly invested in emotionally by you up until this point, it seems to be bringing up something in you, whether it's guilt or a bit of shame or what, maybe it's being concerned that you are, being a bit cold, or that you I don't know. There's some sort of weird feeling that's coming up here that doesn't make it feel easy to just go, but fuck this, I'm going off and I'm doing my own thing. But what we do have over the course of February is an increasing level of mental calmness, mental peace around the fact that this needs to happen. I think it's interesting here that we've got this woman looking out of the window. Now, we could extrapolate from this a sense of boredom or a sense of apathy over the situation. It's kind of just staring out of the window and daydreaming, right? But I do feel more that it's like in this place of waiting, which you find yourself in at the moment. You're always looking through the window and seeing where you could go. Right? At some point, and it's not too far away now, Aries, you will be released from the waiting room that you are in, and you'll be able to get out there and do things. And in order for that to happen, there's a few things that you need to tidy up first, right? We're making space in the life. So when we come into February proper, we have got both the Sun and the Wheel of Fortune. Wow, don't know where that came from. I do actually. It was my card of the day. Why? Oh no, not my card of the day. It was at the bottom of this deck here. Wheel of Fortune. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. It's actually the Ace of Wands. But what an interesting slip. And maybe it is that there's some Wheel of Fortune happenings going on in the background. That's possible. The Sun is about consciousness. It's about many things, actually. It can be about children, and it can be about joy and happiness and vulnerability, a certain level of innocence too. But specifically, it is, for me, about conscious awareness and all one's conscious processes, right? All seemingly focused on this spark point, which is the Ace of Wands. Now, the aces are seeds. They contain the pure potential of the entire seed, right? And just as an acorn will turn into an oak tree, like the Ace of Wands is powerful in terms of changed behavior, changed actions, changed directions, but also renewed enthusiasm and passion and creativity. All that seems to have been lost over here suddenly starting to show up over here. Now, whether there's a Wheel of Fortune component to that or not, I wouldn't be surprised if it's working away in the background. But it seems like everything here, just as we've been talking about, has been about getting everything ready for this moment. It doesn't matter that you don't really have a clear idea of where you're going or how you're going to feel about it, right? What matters is that you allow yourself to follow your intuition and go where it is taking you. Right? The Fool is a very intuitive creature. He wanders, he's not following a map. He's certainly not on the lookout for too much danger, right? There's a kind of reckless quality to the Fool, but there's something endearingly innocent to the Fool too. And the Fool is all about pure potential, which is getting ready to show itself, but isn't quite here yet. I mean, one thing that we should be aware of is that it doesn't mean opportunities are going to fall into our laps. It does mean, I think, that some sort of conscious cultivation of these is probably what is going to define February for you. Now, this Five of Wands here, although it's a card that can often talk about conflict, quite active conflict, because it's a 5, it's got this quality of agents of chaos, as Aquarian Insight used to call them, right? And I 100% she's right about that. So we've got two cards that are inherently unstable here, or representing unstable energy around action and also around emotion. What these are saying, what these are doing, is flagging change, right? That is due to come in very, very soon. Now, like I said, this can often indicate conflict, and that could be internal conflict, that could be external conflict. But it also talks about competition. It also kind of feels to me like it talks about being back in the race, right? I don't know, maybe it's because I've got a combat sports background, right? But I don't see conflict particularly as a bad thing. And where we've got double fives, we're talking about change. We're talking about instability. We're talking about things kind of breaking down and getting ready to be, recreated again. So there's a sense here that with conscious awareness, right, and perhaps a conscious willingness to cultivate opportunities for you that you don't need to take advantage of quite yet, but putting in the groundwork for it. I can see this five of wands talking very much about that. Like, I'm getting ready to get back in the race. I'm getting ready to start moving. I don't know about you, but I can feel March already. It's there, and it feels significant. It feels really, really significant. It feels like it's going to run at breakneck speed, actually. I think we're going to whip through March, April, May, and be then just kind of holding onto a wall, like, what the fuck just happened? I think that's quite strong. So we've got the Five of Cups here, which is often about stagnant emotions. Now, what's really interesting is that I feel there's a realization here that you, Aries, who potentially may not necessarily define yourself as some sort of incredibly emotional character, comes to the realization of how much your emotions, mayhap possibly, or centered around not wanting to lose something, emotionally speaking, have been the things that have been holding you in place for a long time, right? We've got the Seven of Cups, which is well, it can be many things, right? It can be illusion, it can be confusion, it can be the illusion of choice sometimes. But weirdly enough, I feel a sense of clarity with this Seven of Cups that I don't normally see. And I wonder if it's because this woman is on the other side of a glass window, and she's looking at what is in the cups. She's got a clear line of sight to everything. She can't reach out and touch them yet, but she can clearly perceive what is in each cup. And in other decks, we don't get a sense of that. We've got people in silhouette who are like, holy shit. And these cups are elevated beyond line of sight, where you literally can't see what's in them. We don't have that here. So there are possibilities, but I do think that a lot of what's being weighed up here is contingent upon what you decided was not for you here and here. It's like, what are the new things? What are the new values? What are the new expressions of that? What do I want to dedicate myself to? What do I want to get enthusiastic about? What am I passionate about? I might not be able to have them right this second, but I can certainly get ready to take advantage of them now that I have recognized where I have been stagnant, and a lot of this is about the stagnancy here, and done whatever I needed to kind of pull myself up to King of Cups level, right, which is emotional mastery, and understand that, like, no one really benefits when we lie to ourselves about being emotionally invested in something. It doesn't matter whether it's a job, a relationship, a friendship, any kind of situation. If we're not being honest with ourselves about any aspect of it, we're going to struggle to move forwards, right? Because we're always going to feel that. At its worst expression, like, quite often you can see this in trauma bonds, right? And then as one person gets ready to kind of exit away from that, heal away from that, the other one's just like, ew, you don't love me anymore, you never did love me, and it becomes it's like a lasso that people try and throw around each other to keep them back where they are. But that's because they're in a state of denial, a state of deception almost, about what they think they're getting out of this situation. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but I hope that I have, because this stuckness, particularly emotionally based, which has then had an effect on what you have done thereafter, it's shifting this month, Aries. We don't know where this is going to take us, but actually you have an insight now into you that you didn't have before. And that, I think, means that when the feeling shows up, whether it's taking advantage of opportunities that are showing up, or putting in the graft to create those for yourself because it's an offshoot of the passion that you have, I think you're going to very clearly understand the feelings when they come up, and there is no fear around whether or not you might be deceiving yourself about something, right? It's like, nah, I'm ready. I'm going to just go. I mean, I think March is going to be very exciting for you, Aries. We've got a number of planets and be moving into your sign, and each one of those planets that comes and moves into your sign is adding another dimension, another layer, another level of energy to new starts, new directions. It's going to be wild. I'm a bit cautious about saying it, but I am actually kind of excited to see what Neptune in Aries is going to look like. A little bit terrified, but also a little bit, excited. We've got Saturn moving into Aries in the next few months. We've got Venus is going to be in Aries at some point in February too. It's got a lot of stuff going on, and then we've got other things that are in air signs, right? So these are all creating aspects to these planets that are going to be in your sign. Uranus is going to be in what now? Gemini. Pluto is in Aquarius. Air and fire together create something quite extraordinary. So anyway, I'm blathering on. This is a really good month, Aries. You by all means continue doing what you have been doing, because this seems to be taking you in the right direction. But I would pay very, very careful attention to what no longer has your heart, and I would be very, very disciplined about the extent to which you allow it to occupy any more place in your heart, any more space in your heart, if you're not really about this anymore, right? It's cleaning house time, getting ready for the spring, getting ready for your season. Oh, I'm actually quite excited, Aries. Right, I'm going to go now. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.